Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, our pleasure. I can't wait for our conversation. I think this is going to be of great value to our listeners. And I can't wait for you to share kind of everything that you've learned over the years. So let's dive in. What I would love to do to start is I know you're a health coach, you're kind of now turned business coach. But what I would love for you to share is a little bit of how you kind of got started in the health and wellness space, how that kind of organically grew, and then maybe how you got into business coaching.
Yeah, I would love it. So I got into health coaching through my own health journey. I didn't even know about health coaching. I didn't think I didn't set out to do that. That wasn't my plan. And I think a lot of health coaches probably can relate to this where it was actually kind of like taking it back, like growing up as a child, I was sick pretty often, pretty frequently. I grew up with a single mom who was doing the best that she could. She had me when she was 19. She was working all the time. I grew up on a lot of fast food. I was left alone a lot. And so looking back now and like my knowledge as a health coach, I think that there was a lot of trauma that played a role, and also like the lack of nutrition. And so I was just sick a lot as a kid. I had a lot of stomach issues. And when I got to college, it got really bad. I had chronic digestive issues, and I was like, I need to look into this. This has been a pattern. Like, I'm tired of being in pain. And so I started going to see specialists, and they were running all of these tests. They thought it might be celiac, maybe it was IBS, just like everything. And they couldn't find anything, which again, now I know that this is pretty common. That's like one thing I love about social media. I know some people are like, oh, I don't like social media. One thing that I really like about social media right now is how it can unite us. And I find that for me, I have just learned so much through social media, through Instagram and TikTok, people sharing their stories. And so I'm seeing, and then also becoming a health coach, you realize like, oh, like you're not the only one, who's struggling with these, who's going to doctors, and, they can't tell you what's going on. And so for me, I was really frustrated. And I remember, so I'm married. I work with my husband, Peter, and we've been together, since we graduated high school in 2006. And so we were living together at the time, going to university, and he's just like always been by my side this whole journey, my whole health journey, businesses together. And I remember one night I was sitting on the counter in the kitchen with a Costco sized bag of M&Ms, and I'm just like eating them, crying, complaining, having a full meltdown. And he was like, babe, maybe the M&Ms like aren't helping. Maybe like the food isn't helping. Right. And I was angry. I did not want to hear that. And if Peter, he's great. He has like this little charm, this way of like saying things where you're like, he's right. And he's like innocent, and he's coming from his heart always. But still I was like, oh, and I was just like, whatever, I don't want to hear that, but it stuck. And I think that that's something that, I've really realized being in the health space, being in the business space, people do pick up on your message. Just sometimes it takes a little bit of time for it to click for them, and so sometimes we think like, oh, people aren't picking up on this, it's not landing. But it's planting that seed, and that planted a seed for me to do my own research and to get started. And so I started, researching health and wellness. And back then, this was in, I like 2009, blogging was really big. There wasn't Instagram. So blogging was really big. And so I would read blogs about like health and wellness. I started making green smoothies. I watched Food Matters documentary. Peter watched it with me, and we went plant-based. We went plant-based in 2010, which was very drastic from the way that we were eating. We were eating, processed foods. We were in college, drinking a lot, just all the things. So we went plant-based, went gluten-free, removed coffee, like just this big transformation. And for the first time in years, my stomach pain went away. I couldn't believe it. And I was just, I was blown away that nutrition could play such a big role. It was like mind blowing to me at the time. Now I know health coaches are listening to this. They're like, yeah, Sarah. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't anybody tell me this? And by then I had graduated college, Peter graduated college, and we were both working in corporate jobs. And we just kind of had this moment of like, you don't want to work like 9 to 5. He was working doing construction management. So he was doing like 6 to 6, we're like, we don't want to do this. We want to do something with health and wellness. And that's kind of what led us down the path of becoming health coaches, and how we got started with that. And then, that led to business coaching, which I can talk about too, but it was all very organic, not planned. I will say as soon as I learned about health and how powerful it was, I knew that I did want to do something in that field. I just didn't know how to do it or how to get started.
Yeah. And it resonates. It's so many stories that we've heard in the past, right? It's just people who are unwell, they get well, they kind of find answers in this way, like, Peter was like, hey, you may want to put the M&Ms down. Some people meet, a mentor that helps them, or somebody picks up a book or listens to a podcast. There's like this pivotal moment where they're like, okay, I'm going to look into this as a possible solution. And then it's kind of like, you can't unsee it. You can't unlearn it. You can't unshout it, right? Like you just want to share it with so many people because you're like, darn, if I only knew this, if like a doctor maybe told me this, the 5 times that I went to go see someone for the major stomach pain I was in, your life would have been different sooner, right? We kind of have like the, oh my gosh, if I knew this sooner, but we all get to our journeys when we're supposed to. But the truth is like, there's just always that passion of like, now I'm going to share it with others. Like there's no other way to go.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share kind of what you're currently doing right now. And I usually ask that question first, but I kind of wanted to hear your background. So what you're currently doing now is a little less health coaching and a little bit more business coaching. And would you kind of share with our listeners kind of how that organically came about?
Yeah, of course. So now I am running the Coach and Grow Co. So what we do there is we help health and wellness coaches scale to 5-figure months, using a 4-part framework, which we can talk about. And really helping them show up and share their message and help others get transformation. For me, it was really important that we built community because I think it can feel really lonely when you're building a business. And also giving them the tools so that they can work less. For me, when I started my health coaching business, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And there wasn't as many resources as there are now. And so I was kind of following these marketers who were selling courses and ebooks and different things like that. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but what I found was when it was coming to health, I had a hard time getting people to trust me and buy into like a course or an ebook when I was showing up how these other marketers were showing up, because health is so personal that I needed to then, get a little bit vulnerable and share more about myself. And so I just was spending all of this time, like years, trying to figure out like, how do I get people to trust me, to connect with me? And, one of the things that I teach our students is the importance of like your message and your story and just getting it out there, because it's so powerful. And yet it's one of the things that coaches struggle with the most. It's like, my story, isn't special. I don't have this special story, or I don't look like this person, or I don't know all the answers. If somebody asks me all of these things, like all of these things that actually don't really matter. But they keep them stuck, and they kept me stuck. And so really important that we kind of simplify it and help coaches just focus on the things that really matter so that they can live this freedom-based lifestyle, which most of us want when it comes to health coaches and wellness. It's like, we got into this because one, we want to help people feel as good as we do, right? We want to help them transform their health. But also another reason I'm finding, and was true for me, was I don't want to be stuck at a desk, like just like working on a computer behind the screen. Like I don't have a family yet, but I do want a family, because I came from, single mom is like really stressful. I'm like, oh, I want this beautiful family where we get to spend time together. So that's what we do at the Coach and Grow Co, really helping health coaches build their business, make an impact, right? Create transformational programs, and then get this freedom-based lifestyle. And if coaches always ask me, they're like, why did you stop health coaching? Like, it's like this big, like secret thing, or like something went terribly wrong, or, they always want to know that. And I'm so happy to share that. It was not my plan at all. But if you look back at my journey, it makes a lot of sense that I'm doing this, right? So I spent probably about 5 years building a health coaching business. I created a plant-based weight loss for women, which was my signature program, helping women lose weight on a plant-based diet, kind of following the framework that I use to lose weight on a plant-based diet. I was running a membership site with my husband, Peter. We were also doing like helping couples go plant-based, because that again was our journey. That seems to work really well for our coaches too, like their journey, their passion, then like turning that into a program. People really resonate when you use like your own story. And so we were doing that. And so yeah, if you look back, it kind of makes sense because we spent a lot of time figuring out the business side, right, of health coaching, like the opt-ins, the pages, how do you get people to trust you? We had a health podcast, like all of these things. And like, I loved figuring that stuff out. Like that was like my nature. I'm a Taurus. I'm an only child. If you know human design, I'm a manifester. So I like to solve problems. I like to see like, okay, where do we want to go? How do we get there? But then what happened was one of my clients, I was health coaching her at the time, and she was a health coach, but she didn't know about plant-based. So she wanted to learn that. And I do want to talk about that because I think that health coaches can kind of see other health coaches as competition. And I kind of had that mindset for a little while, and I got past that. And I'm so glad I did, because some of my favorite clients when I was health coaching were actually other health coaches. Their health coaches are very easy to coach, by the way. Like they're very open. They're very open. They're very receptive. And
they
so
respect boundaries. Like they
respect boundaries. Like it works really.
Yeah.
So if you're like, this health coach is interested in my program, and maybe your mind goes to like, she wants to steal it, or like, what if she judges it? Like really, I always say like, leave your assumptions at the door and just be open, because it could be a really great friendship. She could be a really great client, a collaborator. You never know if you don't open yourself up to that. So I was like, yeah, of course, I'll help you go plant-based. We can talk about, your program, how you might kind of include some of this. And we worked together for 3 months, my program, Plant-Based Weight Loss for Women. And towards the end, she was like, okay, this has been great. She like lost 20 pounds. She was feeling great. She's like, now will you help me with my business? I really want to run, like I had a membership site. She's like, I really want to run a membership site. And I was like, wait, what do you want me to help you with though? And she's like, I want you to help me build it and like make money and leave my job. And I was like, I don't do that. Like, and I remember telling her, I was like, there are literally like people making $1 million, like who business coach, you should hire one of them. And she's like, no, but I want to do what you did. And like, you can help. And it was like, now I'm like, yeah, obviously, that makes so much sense. Like, that's kind of what I recommend for health coaches too, is like, find somebody who has similar values, who you connect to, who you relate to, and who has done what you want to do. Like, that makes so much sense. But at the time I had such imposter syndrome. I remember, I think at the time I was making like $13,000 a month, which is great. But I felt like that's like I said, I saw coaches sharing they're making $1 million, like hire one of them. I had serious imposter syndrome going on, which we can talk about too. And so eventually, like I talked to Peter, he's like my sounding board for everything. I'm like, what do you think? He's like, oh, you love coaching her. Like, why not? Like just see how it goes. Like you could just do a few sessions. And that's another thing I recommend when trying something new. A lot of coaches, when they're just getting started, they're like, I'm going to offer my 3-month program for free as a beta. I'm like, don't do that. Like offer 1 session or 2 sessions, mini, just to see, because you might not like it. It might not be a good fit. And so I offered her a few sessions. We ended up working together for 6 months. She was able to quit her job, and I would be in my office and I would have like a few clients, and she was my last one. I would like kind of stack them. And I remember like coming out of my office and Peter's like, who were you talking to last? Like you were just like so amped up and excited. And like, you just were like on fire. I could just hear it. And I was like, oh yeah, like that was Jen. Like we were working on her business. He's like, yeah, you really like that. And so after that, I was like, okay, I wonder if anybody else would be interested in, getting help with their business. And so I put it out to our email list. I can't remember what our email list was at the time, maybe like 2,000 people or something. So like not huge. And I had 12 health coaches reach out and say, yes, I would love for you to teach me about business. I've been following you, or I've been stalking you, or I've been reading all your emails. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And so I did like a little beta 8-week program, and it was awesome. And it was so much fun. And so I thought I could do both. I was like, oh, I'm going to health coach. It's going to be great. Cause I still to this day love health coaching. I'm going to do health coaching, I'm going to do business coaching. I started another Instagram, and how many months? February, March, April, May, June, like 6 months into it, I had a total breakdown. It was like summer. We were like supposed to like take the day off and go to the beach, and I couldn't do it. I was like, I don't know where to post this content. Is it business content? Is it personal content? Is it health content? Like, I don't know like what to do, what email. Like, I was just completely overwhelmed. And I think that this is something that other coaches can relate to, and business owners. There's so many different moving pieces. And when you're, especially when you're starting out, and even when you're not starting out, if you have too much stuff on your plate, and at the time it was just me, I had hired an assistant, and that was stressing me out too, because like, I didn't know how to manage both of them. And then I had this assistant was like, hey, I want to help you. And I was like, great. How? Help me. Like, let's figure it out, And so I just, struggled through that and tried for a while. And I just had this point where it's like, okay, I need to just do one. And so I transitioned to business coaching because and this is also my personality. I felt like with health coaching, I had been doing it and kind of doing the same thing. And it was kind of like rinse and repeat. And it wasn't as challenging. And as much as like when I'm in a big struggle, I say, I hate a challenge. This is too much. I don't want to do it. Like, the truth is, I do like to be challenged and like figure new things out. And so we at that time pivoted to strictly business coaching. And that was a really hard decision because I had this membership, and, I was like, I'm closing it down, and people were definitely upset. But at the end of the day, like, it was the right decision for me and my business and my life.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to kind of highlight just how like it, authentically, organically came to that, because I think so many of us can kind of look at, maybe somebody lands on your Instagram page and they're like, oh, she must have had some like business tycoon mentor that taught her how to business mentor. And now she's, helping people grow their businesses. But unless we kind of really hear the story, and I think goes back to certainly what you were saying before too, right? Like you can create so much relatability in someone's story. But I think it's important for people to know that sometimes like the next best step is just the thing in front of you. And we don't always have to have these like perfectly laid plans or have these really incredible contacts. It was simply just one health coach who was inspired by your process to be like, can you teach me? Right. And so amazing that you had such a present, partner who was able to listen and be like, that obviously lights you up. Right. Because sometimes, even though we know what excites us, and like having somebody else kind of validate, like, you sounded like you were really into that. Maybe, you're onto something. Like, all of that kind of just propels us to where we're supposed to be. Right. But I think so many of us, and it's that imposter syndrome, it's whatever it is, can kind of think that, oh, she, must have come from some sort of a background that kind of just like neatly placed her here in this place. And that could be so far from the truth. I mean, couldn't be so much further from the truth.
Yeah, no, 100%. That is something that a lot of people assume. And I did too, when it came to starting my health coaching business. I remember being at this point where it's funny how sometimes like things aren't going super bad, but your mind kind of tells you the story. And I remember it was during an election. I won't name the election, but it was like a really stressful election. And I had coaching clients. My business was doing good. Like, I had a full like one-on-one schedule. And I remember it was like during the election, I had a few clients who were like really upset about it. And so they were taking it out on me. And I should have now, like, if there's like an election, I'll just cancel like my calendar that day, or if there's something going on and like, we're going to feel it, like I need to process, clients need to process, right? Like, it's like, I'm not dealing with that. I have way better boundaries now. But at the time I remember thinking like, oh my God, I cannot do this. I cannot deal with this. This is terrible. Like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable. And I had all of these limiting beliefs that came up. And it was kind of like, when I look at them, it was, my mom didn't graduate from college. I have no entrepreneurs in my family. This is my first business. I don't have a business degree, a business background. Who am I to do this? And all of these limiting beliefs came flooding in. And I think that's what a lot of people think when it comes to starting a business. It's like, oh, learning about health and wellness and like transforming my health, that feels good. But like the business side, like, who am I to do the business side and like take in this money and pay taxes and like and we start spiraling, right?
Especially women. I feel like
yeah.
this is particularly limiting for women in a sense of, like, I think we can have like a different relationship with like the money aspect and the, kind of like the power that not like power in a bad way, but just like stepping into that really strong position of like running a business. What does it mean to make, a large sum of income and a lot of women are in coaching. And so like, it's kind of this, like ebb and flow of energy that I think can sometimes like get stagnated if your thoughts aren't clear around it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like, I think that, sometimes too with social media, it can be like the comparison. And then we like feel like, oh, like she's already doing it or she's making so much money. Like I'm like nothing compared to that, but kind of changing the mindset of, oh, she's doing it. She's running a business. This health coach is really successful. That's going to be proof to me that I can do it too, right? Like seeing other people's success as an opportunity for your own success is really powerful. And I really stepped into that. I remember I would watch like Marie Forleo and I was like, oh yeah, like if she can do it, I can do it. She can do it, I can do it, and just like pumping yourself up and doing all of the mindset work, I think is really important. So for me, I rewrote my limiting belief. So my limiting belief was, I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough to like run a successful business. Anytime I would have a hard day, that would pop into my head. And so I rewrote it and I was like, I'm smart enough, I'm capable, and I'm already freaking doing it. Right. And so I wrote that and I popped it on my desk. And so when I would have a hard day, I'd be at my desk and I would see it and I'd be like, okay, cool. And it's such a small thing, but it really did help me out on those challenging days.
Yes. Yeah. And I love the point that you make about, shifting from comparison and competition to kind of like, oh, well, this is just proof. Like this is nothing but actual quantitative proof that if another woman in a similar, world situation than I'm in can do it, so can I. And not like I'm going to do it because she's doing it, but literally just using it as energetic proof and not as competition or as, some sort of, negative comparison. It's such a small shift, but so powerful.
Yeah, it reminds me of like, I need to like look up the actual story, but I'm sure you've heard it of how nobody was able to run a 3-minute mile. And then one person did it. And then right after it, like everybody started breaking it and was able to run a 3-minute mile, which is crazy. Like yeah. But anyways, but like it's proof. It's like, as soon as you believe something's possible, then it opens up the door for you to do it as well. And so I think if we just shift that with social media and we're like, okay, she's doing it, that means it's possible for me too. It helps have such a better relationship with it. I'll also say with imposter syndrome, another thing that I recommend, because like with my community, I'm sure with your community, we foster a lot of relationships. Like we do accountability buddies, we do like group coaching calls where we're sharing, we do healing calls where we're talking about like our struggles with our own health or with, health, like social media and comparison. Right. And so our health coaches are surrounded by all of these other health coaches if they're going through your program, I'm sure. And so even though they have these great relationships, sometimes it's like, oh, like, she's doing this, like, I don't know if there's room for me to do it as well. Or, I saw like 5 other health coaches, like who are also creating a hormone program, like who needs my program? And I just want to remind you that as a health coach, we are connected to all of these health coaches, but your ideal clients, they're probably not, right? They probably don't know all of these programs. And so to keep that in mind, like when you feel like, oh, she's doing it, I can't do it. If you just show up and share your story and how you can help someone, like the imposter syndrome, as soon as we take the focus away from like ourselves and what we don't have and what we aren't, and we put it on to helping others, helping our ideal clients, then we attract the people that we want to work with. And honestly, like you'd stop thinking about the other coaches and what they have and you don't have. So that is another really great hack for imposter syndrome, is just focusing on like, nobody knows about all the other health coaches. Don't worry about them. Just focus on helping your ideal client. Share your story, share your message.
Yes. Yeah. I tell coaches that all the time, because I think when you're in these tight knit communities, which we're so lucky to have, your community, our community, it can seem like this is like the world, right? Like this is our world. And there's all these health coaches in this one little pool. And like, where am I going to fit in? But if you take us and just scatter us across, the country, there's still room for more.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we can kind of get this sense of like, there's too many. Is it too? I have people ask me all the time. One of the biggest questions that I get asked from coaches who are thinking about, getting into more of like launching a business is it saturated? And in my opinion, until it's more popular and more readily available than conventional medicine, it's not too saturated, right? Like it's just, there's so many people that have no clue this stuff exists still. And, we can kind of get like this, because of the amazing close-knit communities that we have, we can think that the world is a little smaller than it actually is. And the truth is, like you said, a lot of these people who are maybe following me on social media have no idea that like the other health coach who's also launching a very similar program even exists, even though I know 4 people just like her. But it's because of the world I'm living in. Yeah,
exactly. 100%. 100%. It's such a good reminder. And you can just look at like your friends and family and people who aren't in the industry. And then you're like, at least for me, I'm like, oh yeah, we need more health coaches. We need more health coaches. Yeah. I got some clients for you guys. Don't worry.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Couldn't agree more. Okay. So you kind of like teased it. I think you mentioned the 4 fundamental framework. If I have somebody listening, a listener right now, that's kind of like, okay, so you sound like you're an amazing business coach. Where do you kind of start as far as what would your kind of like number one recommendation to kind of like get started type of a thing be?
Yeah, let's go over the 4-part framework. I also have a masterclass that I'll give you for the show notes that goes into more detail. And the thing that's really cool about the masterclass is it actually shows health coaches who have used this. So health coaches who have used, like the first one is confidence and like defining their niche, who have used that to then grow their social media to 20,000 followers just by doing that one framework. And so I have examples of each one, and you can see how health coaches are using that. So I'll give you the link for the masterclass. And so if they want more details, but okay, so pretty much this is the 4-part framework I recommend if you are working on scaling to $10,000 a month as a health coach. If you're brand new, this is going to be perfect for you. If you have been treating your business as a hobby, this is going to be perfect for you, because my big thing is when you know what to do, you can just focus on those things and you can grow your business in less time. When I started my business, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And so I spent all the free time that I had trying to figure it out. And what happened was I wasted a lot of time on things that didn't move the needle in my business. It didn't help me with my business. And now that we have social media and we have like reels and all of this stuff that can take a lot of time, I'm seeing health coaches in our community, they're getting stuck in just like this overwhelm and these lists, and they only have a few hours to build their business, and they really want to help people. And so this is going to be really helpful because you can use these and build your business in 5 hours a week. 5 hours a week. You don't need a lot of time if you're focusing on the right things. And that's the biggest thing is like, well, Sarah, what the heck are the right things? So let's do it. Let's dive in. So the first thing, I call it confidence. And it is confidence in your ability to help somebody get a transformation, right? And the thing with this, and we teach this in my program, Launch Coach Grow, is I don't recommend trying to help everybody with everything, right? As health coaches, we know so much, and it can be really hard to get that down into a program. But really, if you can just pick like one thing to start and kind of like use my story as inspiration, it's like, this might not be your forever thing that you help them with. This is just the thing that you're going to start with that's going to put you on the map, and you can evolve and change. And that probably will happen. Like if you are still like on your own journey and growing and learning things, like your business probably will evolve a little bit as you do if you are at the beginning stages. So the first one is really making sure that you are focusing on who you serve, and it's clear. I can go to your social media and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what she does. That makes so much sense, you know? And one thing that I really like about when it's clear is, because I used to health coach, I'll have people reach out to me all the time and they'll be like, hey, Sarah, like I need a coach who can help me with digestion, and they need to understand what it's like to have kids, and I also have a thyroid issue. And then I can think, oh, I know Jessica, she's a mom. She has thyroid issues, and she was able to like heal her digestion and lose weight. I think that would be perfect, right? So when you have a really clear, people call it niche, ideal client, avatar, whatever term you want to use, when that's clear, then people can refer others to you and they can talk about you. It's really easy, right? But you want to pick something that you are also confident in, so you can talk about it without having to re-record stories or like write all these notes for your live. It's like, it just flows really naturally. It's not all of this stuff that you have to research every time you talk about it. So that's the first one, confidence. Good. Should we keep going? Okay.
Great. I think perfect.
So the second one is learn, and it's all about learning social media. I think social media is such a great platform and a tool. It allows us to get our message out for free. I have coaches who are signing clients simply by doing one live video where they are sharing their story, who they serve, and how they can help them. That's it. Really simple, straight to camera, no special effects, right? They're doing a reel and they're sharing the 3 things that they did to, whatever it is that their niche is. The 3 things I did to lose weight on a plant-based diet, the 3 things that I did to regulate my hormones, like whatever the niche is, just really simple stuff. So learning the simple things with social media, like, how do I post a reel? How do I show up in my stories? What is the structure for a live video, right? To get shares, to get eyeballs on my stuff. How do I share my message? Because like most of us, like even myself, even though I kind of grew up when like, I was like the last one to get on Facebook, Instagram came out and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about it, and I think that that's pretty common with health coaches. At least I hear it all the time where it's like, I'm not good with social media. I didn't grow up with social media. I don't use social media. I don't really want to share my personal, like all of this baggage around social media. And if you can just think of it as a tool to help people and reach your ideal clients, and you can learn a few things, because anytime we don't know how to use something, it's stressful, it's hard, it takes more time. And so really learning, again, like you don't need to learn everything in order to sign clients and hit $10,000 a month. I think coaches get hung up on like, okay, I need to do this course. I need this like fancy stuff. I need all this. And it's just like, let's say you have 5 hours a week, like let's simplify it, like learn the basics. So that's 2, is learning social media. And then number 3 is create. And that is creating your offer. So creating your offer, your program. I also teach this in Launch Coach Grow, but what I recommend for new coaches is one-on-one coaching. I think there are some exceptions, but I think before you can go to a group program, a course, something like that, learning how to coach people and learning what it takes to get your ideal clients to go from point A to point B is so crucial. And I'm speaking from experience because I tried to do a course first. And I was like, oh man, like people are like struggling, like this is not working, because teaching and coaching are very different, right? And it's a lot easier to help people when you're talking to them and they're like, hey, I can't figure out my food, like I'm not exercising. I have this mindset block. If it's just a course, they might stay quiet, be shy, not let you know. And you're usually just guessing at the beginning. And so I really recommend one-on-one coaching. So creating a one-on-one coaching program. And we teach either like you either create your signature program or a mini offer. If you are struggling with confidence, if you're struggling with pricing, if you don't have a lot of experience, creating a mini offer, which could look like a one-on-one call, maybe like a guide and like a follow-up, just like really small. Our coaches usually, like currently at the time that we're recording this, usually charge between like $350 and $550 for that. Just so if somebody's like wondering about what that looks like. So we recommend creating one of those 2 offers, focusing on one offer at a time. Then you can always create another one. And so that is create, and really creating it for transformation, because that is really important too. If we put everything that we know into a program, it's really hard for people to get transformation. And what I see a lot is when coaches work with clients, and this is why at the beginning I was like, don't do a whole program for free, because what I found is coaches, if they're working with clients and their clients aren't getting results or transformations, coaches start to doubt themselves. And if they are cut out for this, if they're good enough. And so what I found is, when people pay a little bit to do a program, they usually are more committed. Or if there's some kind of value exchange, could be a testimonial, could be lots of things, they're more committed. And then also going back to the program, if you put everything you know into a program, it's hard for people to get that result. And then again, coaches end up doubting themselves. Am I cut out for this? Did I do a good job? Did I do everything? They put it all on them, which, it is our responsibility to create the best program, support our clients as much as we can, but it is on the clients to actually like do the work. And, we're not responsible for their results. But I found that if you create a transformational program with not too much involved in it, clients can actually get really great results with actually less in the program. So that is number 3, create.
Yes. And I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I just had a, she's an IHP. She messaged me on Instagram and she was like, I'm so down on myself. I want to start a business, but everybody that I've helped so far, friends and family, don't stick to anything that I'm suggesting, and they're not getting results. And so I'm like, what the heck am I even like able to do this? And I'm like, oh, that's because you're giving a bunch of people who don't really want your advice, free advice. And they're just like, oh, thanks. Great. Okay. I'll now just go back to I'm like, no, that is not a reflection of your capability. So important that you say that, right? Family members and friends who are not, and again, it has nothing to do with like, oh, if they pay for something, now you're like valued more essentially, but it has to do with like almost the energetic exchange of like, what's at stake, right? If somebody is paying for a service, they're going to put in some work versus a client who's, a friend who's just like, so tell me about that nutrition plan. I mean, I've sent so many friends and clients nutrition plan. They never follow through with any of it. I'm a darn good coach and I know that. It's just because they truly like weren't invested in it. Yeah. But if you're new and you don't have that ability to believe in yourself, it absolutely can be something that kind of sets you back. So I love that you made that point.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And the thing is, the value exchange, like you said, is really important. And at the beginning, it's hard to have these boundaries and set these boundaries, but it's everything. You'll see as you start increasing your prices too, people start showing up more. I remember when I was health coaching, I would do group programs and they would be so cheap. And I would have like 2 people sign up. I'd have more people sign up, but I have 2 people actually come to like the Zoom call, right? And I'd be like, what the heck? And it's because they were missing out if they didn't come on like $50. They didn't care that much. I eventually had a program that was $5,000. Nobody ever missed a call. Nobody ever didn't show up, right? Because they have more invested, more on the line. And so it's hard to see that at the beginning, especially if people are saying, oh, it's too expensive, or I don't have the money, or I can't afford it, and I always say, people who want something, when they really want something, they will find the way to get the money. They'll find a way to make it happen always. And so the first step for coaches is like, you have to believe in yourself and your value. And that can be hard to do if you've never done this before. So that's why having community is really important. It's having people like Julia, right? Having people like me to be like, hey, actually, like, you're worth it. Like, hold your ground. And what's cool is once you start holding your ground, people then start paying attention. They start signing up, right? It's really easy if somebody's like, oh, like I want to do, but I can't afford it. If you then go to okay, let me do it for free. What can you afford? They're like $10, you're like, okay, fine, let me do that. Sometimes even then they'll be like, actually, I can't do it. I don't have $10. Whereas if instead you say, I would love to have you in this when it aligns with you. It sounds like right now isn't a good time for you. Let me know when you're ready. You keep showing up, you keep posting your wins, you keep living your lifestyle. That same person, if they were a good fit, they will then reach out and be like, okay, I think I'm ready. Let's do this. Like I've had that happen so many times, but what we can't do is then stop and say, oh man, nobody can afford this. Who am I to do this? Like whatever you do, when you get like a negative comment or I can't afford this and you're down, take a break, go for a walk, clear your head, meditate, shake it off, but then keep showing up because they are still watching. They are still paying attention.
Yes. Yeah. Love that. Okay. On to four.
Number four, last one. So number 4 is launching. You gotta launch the thing, friend. You gotta launch it. You create it. You're excited, you're happy, and then it's time to put it out there. And what do I see all the time? It's like, I'm not ready. I think I need more experience. I need another cert. I need something. What do I need? You need to just launch it because you are going to get so much experience. You're going to get so much confidence from putting yourself out there. And so we teach like really like flexible launch plan, like creating a launch plan and then putting it out there. So we recommend a sales page or even like a checkout page. I really like Samcart. I have like a list of tools. I don't know if you guys do, but I'm happy to share it. Anybody can reach out and I can share, but I like Samcart for like an easy checkout page. If you're not tech savvy, that can work really well. Our clients who aren't tech savvy, they don't want to deal with like a full sales page. They don't want to hire somebody. They don't even have a website. They just use that. I think it's like $59 a month or something. It could have changed. Don't quote me on that. Maybe go check, but it's really affordable and it looks nice. So recommend for launching sales page where somebody can get like terms and conditions. They can check out. They can get it automated so that then they get like, hey, here's your next steps, like really simple. And then a plan where you're spending at least a week promoting what you created and putting it out there. And just really the main thing, if you're like launching your thing, the main thing that I would say is like sharing like your message, like why you're excited about this and how it can help your ideal client and just keeping it really specific. If you're looking for this is the program that's going to help you do it and share it, like sharing from the heart. I'm not a big fan of killing yourself, like launching or promoting, doing like a lot of like fancy funnels. I think for 10K months, you don't need all of that stuff. Like if you have a program that's like $2,000 or $3,000, it's not hard to hit those numbers. And I do recommend pricing a little bit higher when just starting out, because it's going to be way more work than you realize, not to scare you off, but it's just, you care about your clients. You're going to want to show up. You're going to want to over deliver. You're still learning boundaries. And so it's going to be more work than you think. It's going to be more time. It always is for health coaches, for all of us. We just can't help ourselves. We're like, one more thing. Let me just help them. Let me send them this. Let me answer this, So that, and you have a smaller audience. So it's going to be, the numbers aren't necessarily working in your favor, even though I have seen coaches do like great launches with a small amount of people when they have like the confidence, when they have pretty much the other 4 things or the other 3 things, they can do a really powerful launch. So don't be afraid to put your thing out there, even if you feel like it's not perfect or you're not ready. Because honestly, if you're doing one-on-one coaching, really like what people want is like, they want the support. They want somebody to guide them. That's really it. And so if you can show up with the other 3 things, with the belief, the confidence, right? With the social media, you're showing up, you're sharing, you're being present, and you created a really transformational program, it's not going to be that hard to fill up a few spots.
Yes. Yeah, that's so great. And I feel like it's, will resonate so much with our listeners because that 4th one is oftentimes like we can kind of all conceptually like see us doing like 1, 2, and 3. Okay, maybe confidence is hard, but like I can get there. Yeah. And then like you get to the launch part and it's like, no, wait,
Yeah.
And everybody kind of is like, gets that like self-doubt and having, a coach be able to tell you, right? Because just like a health coach, needs a health coach, like, right? Like business coaches are somebody that can just go ahead, like it's time. And oftentimes we just need that little nudge to have somebody else believe in us, right? That's what health coaching does. It's me saying to the client on the other end, like, no, I promise you, you can transform your life. This doesn't have to be, the only way you live with these symptoms and whatnot. And we give that to our clients, we should be able to give that to ourselves in kind of that same like structural business sense to be able to reach those people that so desperately need our help.
Yeah, I agree. The support is crucial. And, I think that, obviously, like I do business coaching, I'm biased. I think business coaches are really helpful. I think having a mentor, having somebody, having a community, having like a business bestie, like somebody who's just like, hey, you got this, you can do this, keep going. But then also having, like we have in Launch Coach Grow, we have sample launch plans. I'm not a big fan of like cookie cutter programs. I want like coaches to put their own spin on it. I think that is how you're able to stand out in the marketplace, is like having your own program that's custom to your message, your mission, your story. But I do think having like sample launch plans of like, hey, this is like what you could say on this day. This is what you could say on this day. This is like a larger event you could do, like having that laid out. It does give you a little bit more confidence, and you're not just like being like, how do I talk about this? I've already talked about this, like we have prompts of like, here are 25 ways you can talk about your program without being salesy. Little stuff like that can be really helpful the first time. And then like after you do a launch, if you're listening, you've already done launch, it's hard. Try to take like the emotions out of it and go back and see like what worked, what message, what post did people resonate with, what had people reaching out, right? Because if you can do that, then the next time you do it, it will be even better.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So you've kind of touched upon a few of the names. What's the name of the company?
Launch Coach Grow.
Launch Coach Grow.
The business, if you guys
give us all of the,
okay.
the websites, the business, the social media, all that jazz, where people can find you.
Yeah. So the business is thecoachandgrow.co.
Okay.
So that's the website, thecoachandgrow.co. It's also on Instagram, Coach and Grow. And you can find information. We do vodcasts where I interview health coaches and share like how they were able to do it. I think you kind of do similar on your podcast, right? So we have that. If you're curious, that's on the website. And then the program is called Launch Coach Grow. A lot of launching, a lot of growing going on over here. My favorite things, I want to be growing. I like putting new things into the world that help others. So that program, if you are interested in that, I would recommend the masterclass. So I'll give you the link. If you guys can also DM me on Instagram, I'm Sarah_Hagstrom. I love DMs. I love talking. I love sending voice notes. Like that's my jam. If you ever want to reach me and you're like, why isn't she responding to my email? Hit me up on Instagram. I'm there. But if you watch the masterclass, you can see, like I was saying, how health coaches are using each of these 4 parts. And then I go into Launch Coach Grow, which is my signature program. And if it's open for enrollment at the time, whenever you're listening to this, because I know like I listen to podcasts that are like 2 years old. It's like summer and it's like New Year, Happy New Year's. I'm like, it's summer, but like, let me keep listening. This is good. So depending on when you listen, enrollment might or might not be open, but you can get on the wait list. You can see the program, how we work with health coaches, how we help them create their programs and launch online.
Okay. So great. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. I know our listeners are probably going to love everything that you've shared. I'm so appreciative for you being here present with us today. Thank you so much.
Oh, this was so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, our pleasure. And we'll be in touch soon. Thanks again, Sarah.